Hey punks, welcome back to university. We have another Radlands 101 class for you. Today we're going to take out our player aid card and we're going to do a quick how-to on this middle section here. So we've already discussed turn sequence, so we're going to look at is my card ready and discuss ready and restore and its importance to the puzzle of the game. So is my card ready? For camps, a face-up camp is always ready. So unless you have used one of its abilities this turn, a damaged camp is still ready. So we've discussed this in other videos. Whether your camp is standing or damaged, as long as you haven't paid for one of its abilities, it's ready. So bonfire here is ready to fire. Outposts and cache are also ready to use and ready to fire, even though they've already been damaged. So as an example, if we had already rated for 2 with Outpost this turn, we then couldn't do the restore ability on Outpost for 2 because this card's not ready. All right, the second section here, talking about people. A person is ready unless it was played this turn, it was restored this turn, one of its abilities was used this turn, or it is damaged. So let's go over that. So say we have a person here, we decide to play Mutant in front of one of our camps. This is the turn that Mutant came out, so it is not ready. That's going to be, for almost all people, how that works. There's a couple cards like Rescue Team that come into play ready. But for the most part, when a person's here, it's not ready to go. Let's talk about, say, Mutant was already damaged. We have Outpost here. We use the 2 water for the restore ability on Outpost to ready Mutant. Well, since he was restored, we want to put this not ready symbol on him because, again, we couldn't use his ability this turn since we went from damaged to restored. Point number 2. Number 3, one of its abilities was used this turn. So if we decided to already use Mutant, who will damage himself at the end. He's not a very good example. So let's bring out Repairbot. Say we decided to use Repairbot this turn for 2 water. He can restore cards. So we restored Outpost. Now he's already been used. He's not ready. So we couldn't spend another 2 water to restore another card on the field. And the last one, it is damaged. So when people have been injured or damaged or they're turned to the side, they are not ready. So that's the basics of it. Now, as you can see here, I've actually got we're going to discuss some cards that interact with restore and ready. So there's essentially only 2 people cards in the game that interact with the restore. So Repairbot here, when you bring him into play, he restores a card when he enters play, which is really good. For a 1 water restore is undercosted. Then his regular ability is 2 water to restore. That seems to be about the initial cost to do that. Mutant can also restore. So for 0 water, which is very undercosted, he can deal a damage and or restore. That means Mutant can do both. So Mutant can damage something on the enemy side, he can restore something, but then he damages himself. So that's where the extra cost for a Mutant comes in, is that he is then damaged after you use that ability. And unless he can get restored and not injured that next opponent's turn, you're not able to really use that ability again. So you have a couple people in the game that restore. We have 4 cards, so 8 total in deck because there's 2 copies of each of these cards that can restore other things just by junking. So Gunner and Sniper are the only 2 people cards that when junked or sent to the discard pile allow you to restore other cards. And Napalm and Bombardment are the only 2 event cards in the deck that allow you to, again, junk them to restore other cards. So these are sometimes cards that you want to keep a lookout for. And these are very powerful cards. So some of the most powerful events and some of the most powerful people in the game, they've given you a really good junk ability on them. It's tough to say, man, do I want to play this Sniper, which damages any card on the field? I really need to restore this camp or I might lose it next turn. The same thing with these events. Do I want to destroy all enemies in 1 column or in 3 turns? damage each enemy camp one time. They really have you think over these cards, playing them or using them to junk and restore. Those are always tough decisions to make. And then we've got some camps here that interact with the restore ability. So when picking camps, and I'll do another video on this later on, I always kind of look for a restore. I think with the limited amount of cards that are in the game, obviously there's, another copy of each of these. So we have 6 cards here. So 12 out of the 66 cards in the deck are going to interact with restoring. So that's not a large number. So when I'm picking camps, if I have something that can restore in some way, I'm almost always going to consider it. Now, some of them have more drawbacks than others. Atomic Garden can only restore people, but they are ready. So that this is a card that goes against the main rules of the game. Card text overrides rulebook text. You have one here, Transplant Lab. You get 2 cards to start, but you have to play 2 people before you can restore something, so that's sometimes hard to do. Destroy a person to restore it. Again, another under-costed restore here is in Scavenger Camp, 1 water. But to use this 1 water for the restore, your raiders have to resolve that same turn. And this is a camp that actually can push raiders forward. Now, if you use this card to raiders, like before, you then can't use it to restore, even if the raiders resolve. So keep that in mind. Outpost, very similar, but they have the standard cost curve for a restore. The cash here, deal a damage. You can draw, restore, or punk. And then Bonfire is pretty unique in that it's a card that's 0 water. You damage itself, and you can restore any number of cards. So if you had 2 camps that were damaged and a few people, you could restore, potentially up to 8 other cards on the board if everything's damaged. Now, when this card is damaged, it cannot be restored. Again, trait text or card text overrides rulebook text. So you've essentially, as long as your opponent doesn't destroy this, you've got 2 chances to restore a lot of cards for really cheap. Again, an under-costed restore there. That is Ready and Restore in a nutshell. I think it's a really intricate part of this game in that it adds another puzzly element to it. When to restore by junking or using a card, or when not to restore, when is the card itself more important. And as we discussed before, you don't have a lot of camps that also have the restore ability. So when it's one that I draw, it's one that I consider using almost most of the time, a lot of the time, probably 95% of the time. If I have a restore card or restore camp in my starting 6, I'm usually going to pick it because of how rare restoring cards in the game is. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Is when you're picking camps, is that something that you consider? How often are you junking these cards or playing these cards? When you see them, is the restore ability or restore part of the game seem important to you? Let me know. This was the Radlands 101 Ready Restore video. And as always, stay thirsty, punks.